There are factory cars with no wing mirrors at all.
Legal in some countries, illegal in others.
Things you've never seen, now revealed.
This is Cars in Detail.
There are cars leaving the factory today with no exterior mirrors on either side. In their place sit two slim stalks with a camera at the tip, and the picture appears on a screen inside the cabin next to the door. This is not a motor show concept and not a prototype. These are production cars with number plates in traffic, and here's the thing that makes it an episode. That solution has been legal in some markets since the second half of the 2010s and remains illegal in others, not because anyone demonstrated that it performs worse, but because the rule in that country describes, in plain words, a mirror. The technology was finished and waiting. What was missing was not engineering. It was one word in one paragraph, and rewriting that word took longer than building the camera.
To understand why anybody wanted the mirror gone, look at what it costs. On a modern car, the exterior mirror is one of the last large aerodynamic lumps left on the outside of the body. It sits exactly where the air is already confused, at the corner of the windscreen, and it produces two unwanted things: drag, which eats fuel or range, and noise, because a blunt rectangular object hitting air at motorway speed whistles. Body panels, headlamps, door handles, and trim strips were smoothed out over decades in the pursuit of a lower drag coefficient, and the mirror stayed roughly the same size the whole time, because the law required it. Add the blind spot, which is a geometric limit of mirrors rather than a manufacturing defect. A flat mirror shows too little. A convex mirror shows more and lies about distance. No mirror solves both.
What a camera does better is a longer list than most people expect. It sees a far wider field, which shrinks the region a mirror cannot reach. It performs better at night because a sensor amplifies light and a screen can lift the image, something a piece of silvered glass will never do. It does not go blind when rain runs down it because the lens is sheltered and the picture is processed. It can change its own framing, widen when you indicate, tilt down when you select reverse, mark a vehicle closing quickly, and it fits on a stalk with a fraction of the frontal area of a mirror housing. On paper, it is a trade with no downside at all, which is precisely what makes this case worth an episode, because on paper, almost everything works.
Now the number that irritates, and it is a classic trap. Search for how much an exterior mirror costs you in aerodynamics, and you will find answers ranging from very little to a surprisingly large slice of total drag, depending on who measured. They disagree because they are measuring different things. A scale model in a wind tunnel, a computer simulation, and a coast-down test on a track do not produce the same figure, and the result shifts with body shape, mirror size, and the speed you assume. A tall, square van and a low, long saloon do not suffer equally. Anyone publishing one number for all cars is describing a car that does not exist. What every method does agree on is the direction. Removing the mirror lowers drag and lowers noise. By how much depends entirely on the car it was bolted to.
And now the question the whole episode rests on. If the camera wins on field of view, on darkness, on rain, and on aerodynamics, why would a technical rule keep insisting on a mirror? In a moment, I will tell you what that paragraph was actually protecting. And it is not bureaucratic stubbornness. It is 4 properties that nobody ever had to write down because glass supplied them for free.
A mirror has 4 properties almost nobody can name, and they are invisible precisely because they never fail. First, it is passive. It needs no power, does not boot, does not initialize, cannot crash. Second, it is instantaneous. There is no delay between the world and the image because there is no processing in between. It is light arriving and light returning. Third, it degrades visibly. A cracked mirror looks cracked, a dirty mirror looks dirty, and the driver knows immediately. Fourth, and this is the important one, it has no silent failure mode. A camera can freeze on a perfectly plausible frame and go on showing you a world that stopped existing 3 seconds ago, and that is far more dangerous than a black screen. The old rule was not naming an object by accident. It was naming an object that delivered those 4 guarantees for free without anyone having to specify them.
And this is where it meets something you already know, because the mirror carries the most famous sentence ever printed on a car part. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear. Etched into the convex glass on the passenger side is a requirement from one specific market that became a worldwide phrase through cinema. There's also an entire film built on a mirror. In Duel from 1971, a driver spends 90 minutes watching a lorry in his rear view, and the mirror is effectively the second character. You never really meet the other driver. only the shape behind. Notice what the convex glass reveals about itself. It was adopted to shrink the blind spot, and the only way it can do that is by shrinking everything. The rule created the problem, then required the problem to be engraved on the glass.
And here the story refuses the easy villain, which would be to say the country still demanding mirrors is behind the times. The rule naming a mirror was written when no alternative existed, and it protected people well. Swapping an object requirement for a performance requirement is long, unglamorous work. You have to define maximum acceptable latency, minimum field of view, behavior in low sun, in rain, in dust. What happens if the screen dies at speed, and how the car is supposed to warn a driver about a failure that is invisible by definition? None of that is conservatism. It is the difference between trusting an object that has already proved itself and trusting a performance promise that still has to be measured. And there is a duller, more correct argument underneath. Whoever writes a safety rule must design it around the worst car that will ever comply with it, not the best one.
It is worth talking about the part that never appears in the brochure, which is the human eye. When you glance at a mirror, the image it shows you is optically far away because it is a reflection of a distant world. Your eye barely changes focus between the road and the glass. When you glance at a screen inside the cabin, the image is physically half a meter from your face, and the eye has to refocus twice, there and back. For a young driver, that is nearly instantaneous. Past a certain age, the lens of the eye loses elasticity, and the change takes measurably longer. It is a small cost per glance, repeated thousands of times per journey, and it appears in no laboratory test that only measures field of view. The system is better. The eye using the system is the same one it always was.
And there is an honest counterpoint, worth saying before the camera becomes the hero. It has real limits. A lens coated in road mud goes blind in a way the driver may not notice in time. Low sun straight into the sensor blows the picture out. There is latency, small but genuine, between the event and the image, and there is repair cost. A scuffed mirror is a cheap part to replace, while a camera, its loom and a screen are another order of magnitude after a clumsy moment in a car park. Manufacturers also report a human detail. Drivers raised on a century of mirrors take a while to stop turning their head to the old place. None of this condemns the idea. It just explains why it advances slowly, and why in several markets the camera arrived as an addition to the mirror rather than a replacement for it.
And this is where it stops being about cars and becomes a lesson about how technical rules age. Every rule has to be specific in order to be enforceable, and it is the specificity that freezes it. When a paragraph says mirror instead of device that shows what is behind you, it is storing a safety guarantee inside the name of an object, and on the day a better object arrives, the guarantee walks out of the door with the name. That is why this channel exists. Almost everything that looks like an engineering decision on a car is really a paragraph written by somebody who had to protect something they could not quite put into words. Next time you adjust the mirror before pulling away, remember that this piece of glass is the oldest and most stubborn part of the car, and it is still there because it has never once failed in a way you could not see.
If you made it this far, try this in your own car. Sit in the driving position and look at the passenger side mirror, then the driver's side. One of them is almost certainly convex, and the other flat, and the same car behind you will look dramatically different in each. Tell me below which one fools you more, and here's the next episode of this channel. We talked about glass that became video. Next time, a pedal that became theater. In many electric cars, the brake pedal is connected to nothing at all under light pressure. It is a simulator built to feel like hydraulics, while the actual slowing is being done by the motor running backwards. Subscribe so you do not miss it.